Namaste and welcome to a rather spontaneous on the spur of the moment episode on the Dharma Dispatch YouTube channel. So, like all of you, even my blood is boiling and my heart is heavy with the horrific massacre of Hindus that occurred a few days back in Pahalgam, Kashmir. So I don't need to elaborate or add anything further to the brutalities that the Hindus experience there, the horrific gunning down solely because they were Hindus. The men were stripped down and examined to check whether they were really Hindus or not. This is a new law actually. Rather, it's not a new law. We have seen all this happening, say, in 1946 in Calcutta during the massacre, Hindu massacre of Direct Action Day. I mean, the examples just multiply. And Kashmir, as we all know, has been the special target for jihadi takeover, essentially to convert a project of Pakistan to convert it into another satellite state and somehow usurp it. But I'm not going to talk about that today. What I am going to talk about is read out uh, some excerpts from Sri Sita Ram Goel's old article, which was written more than I think about 30 years or so. Uh, Sitaramji was an unparalleled stalwart, a great civilisational warrior, a fearless intellectual Kshatriya who stood up for Sanatana Dharma. So I'm going to read out a few excerpts from his article, which was actually titled Kashmir, the Problem is Muslim Extremism. So Sitaramji is so prescient and he brings together so many facets to this so-called Kashmir problem. It's not a problem as we'll see. I mean, it's quite eye-opening. So without wasting any further time, let me read out from his article. So this is how he begins. What is Kashmir? Is it a piece of orphan territory to be occupied by whosoever carries a gun? Or is it an integral part of an ancient country and the extension of a great culture? Who are the people of Kashmir? Are they those who regard themselves as sons and daughters of that ancient country and as inheritors of that great culture? Or are they those who have been enslaved and brutalized and alienated from their ancestral society and culture by a terrorist and totalitarian cult? To whom does Kashmir belong? Does it belong to the country and the culture which has suffered and survived brutal assaults by the terrorists and totalitarian cult? Or does it belong to the imperialist enclave which has been torn away by force from an organic whole and which is being used as a launching pad for further assaults on what has survived of the ancient country and the great culture? These are the questions which should be posed and answered by all those who are concerned with what is called the Kashmir problem. But what, in fact, is the problem presented by the terrorist and totalitarian ideologies operating under religious cloaks? And it must be admitted that none of these questions can be answered except with the help of history. So this is how he gives the preface to that article. And then Sita Ramji continues. It is my considered opinion that the so-called Kashmir problem that we have been facing since 1947 has never been viewed in a historical perspective. That is why it has defied solution so far, and its end is not in sight in the near future. Politicians at the helm of affairs during this half a century have been living from hand to mouth and are waiting for Pakistan to face them with a fait accompli. Once again, they are out to hand over Kashmir and its people to the butchers who have devastated this fair land and destroyed its rich culture. The name of the game is restoration of democracy. This Sita Ramji wrote more than 30 years ago. Having watched the scene all these years, I feel that the secularist forces in India have never felt sure that Kashmir is an integral part of India like the rest of our states. It is only when someone else says that Kashmir does not belong to India that they make some half hearted noises for fooling the people of India. This is the meaning of Article 370 and of propping up one Muslim leader after another in the valley in the fond hope that world events will someday solve the problem one way or the other. Extraordinary analysis. And then he comes to the crux of the problem. It is therefore high time that we renounce this ritual and have a look at the problem in a historical perspective. I should like to warn that histories of Kashmir written by Kashmiri Hindus in modern times are worse than useless for this purpose. I have read almost all of them only to be left wondering at the piteous state to which the Hindu mind in Kashmir has been reduced. I am not taking these histories into account except for bits and pieces which fall into the broad pattern. And then Sita Ramji asks, what then is the history of Kashmir? It is the same as the history of the rest of India in its long drawn out encounter with Islam, with a few notable differences which I shall point out as I proceed. Kashmir has been an integral part of Bharatavarsha, which comprises the present day states of Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. What distinguished it in ancient times was not that it produced some kings who extended their political sway to neighboring provinces of Bharatavarsha, but that for a long time it remained one of the foremost cradles of spirituality and culture created by Sanatana Dharma. Again, it goes to the credit of Kashmir that its kings supported the Turki and Hindu Shahiyas of Kabul and Zabul in repelling one invasion after another in the northwestern gateway, which stood close to Islamic inroads effectively, and the Islamic imperialists at Damascus and Kufa were forced to seek another avenue of advance through Makran and Baluchistan. Finally, Kashmir not only threw back the Islamic army which advanced towards its borders from Sindh and Multan under Muhammad bin Qasim, but also forged an alliance with China, which was facing the same menace in Central Asia. And so this is how Sita Ramji recounts the long and patriotic and signal service that various Hindu kings of Kashmir rendered to the cause of Sanatana Dharma. Then, then he begins the sad story of Kashmir, of the downfall of Hindu Dharma in Kashmir. He says, the Hindu rulers of Kashmir cannot be blamed in particular for permitting some Islamic missionaries to settle down in the valley for creating seditious colonies of converts. That was a blindness shared in common by Hindu rulers all over Bharatavarsha throughout the centuries. None of them realized that the Sufis were sappers and miners for Islamic imperialism. What distinguishes the Hindu rulers of Kashmir from Hindu rulers elsewhere is that they continue to recruit in their army Turks from Central Asia without realizing that the Turks had become Islamicized and as such were no longer mere wage earners. One of Kashmir's Hindu rulers, Harsha, was persuaded by his Muslim favorites to plunder temple properties and melt down icons made of precious metal. Apologists of Islam have been highlighting this isolated incident in order to cover up the iconoclastic record of Islam not only in Kashmir but also in the rest of Bharatavarsha. At the same time, They conceal the fact that Kashmir passed under the heel of Islam not as a result of the labors of its missionaries, but due to a coup staged by an Islamicized army. This is the most important point in the history of the downfall of Kashmir and its takeover over the centuries by Muslim kings and rulers. So then Sita Ramji says what happened next. What followed the Islamic coup is recorded in numerous histories written by some contemporary Hindus, but mostly by Muslim chroniclers. The slaughter of Brahmins, the destruction of temples, forced conversion, and so on. The pattern was the same as in other parts of Bharatavarsha, which had the misfortune of passing under the heel of Islam at one time or the other. The only distinguishing feature in the case of Kashmir has been that, unlike elsewhere, no Hindu resistance or rebellion could manage to surface anywhere in the valley subsequent to 1338 CE, when that scheming Shah Mir became the first Sultan of Kashmir. Perhaps the odds were too overwhelming, or perhaps a psyche of surrender had been crystallizing over a period of time. The latter seems to be the case if we consult the record of Kashmiri Hindus during the subsequent period. So then Sitaramji gives the list of various histories of Kashmir written by, say, Jonah Raja and all the way up to Jawaharlal Nehru. And he says that these histories, including the ones written by Nawab Nehru, most famously Discovery of India, Sitaramji says that these histories are an endless saga of psychophancy and kowtowing on the part of Kashmiri Hindus before the aggressors. One has to read the songs which Jonah Raja composed in praise of Zain ul Abdin and the panic Greeks which Jawaharlal Nehru heaped on Mahmud Ghaznavi, Babar, Akbar, and Sheikh Abdullah, his Sher-e Kashmir. The record shows a progressive degeneration of the Hindu psyche vis-a-vis Muslim Sultan. Jonah Raja at least had the decency to detail the brutalities committed by the Islamic sultans. For Jawaharlal Nehru, that dark chapter in the history of Kashmir does not exist at all. In his fat volume, Glimpses of World History, he mentions the doings of Mihir Gul in Kashmir in the 5th century CE and then jumps straight to the sale of Kashmir to Gulab Singh in 1846 CE. In the discovery of India, he has space only for spreading the canard in the context of Rinchin. It always comes to the Brahmins being blamed for every misfortune that has fallen to Hindu society and culture at any time in their hoary history. Extraordinary. This is a kind of courage that only Sita Ramji could have. It's unparalleled, really. And then Goelji continues. Small wonder that balance of forces in Kashmir should have continued to tilt in favor of Islamic imperialism till the last Hindu has been hounded out of his ancestral homeland. Small wonder that the hoodlums strut around not only in the valley but in the capital city of Delhi with airs of injured innocence. Small wonder that the Marxist Muslim combine of scribes who dominate the media blame Jagmohan for arranging an overnight and en masse exodus of Hindus from the valley. They cannot forgive Jagmohan for bringing back Kashmir to India at a time when the combine was hoping that Pakistan would face India with an accomplished fact. Here, what the accomplished fact that Sita Ramji refers to is that Jagmohan prevented Pakistan from completely taking over. And then he continues, small wonder that what Arun Shauri has aptly described as the formula factory, the Nayars, the Puris, the Kotharis, the Dhars, the Haksars, the Tarkundes, all should be busy devising ways for handing over the Kashmiri Hindus to their age-old oppressors. This is how you speak the blunt truth bluntly without sugarcoating. Honesty is always the best policy, especially when it comes to Hindu survival. And like I keep mentioning, Sita Ramji shows the way. Next, he continues, the Kashmiri Hindus will be committing suicide if they walk into the trap and agree to return to a democracy presided over by the hoodlums. The only alternative left to them is to battle for their proper rights against the fanatics and their apologists. The battle has to be ideological under the circumstances and along the following lines. One, that Kashmir was a great cradle of Hindu culture for a long time should be published in great detail. Point number two, that how this great culture was ruthlessly destroyed by theocratic fanaticism should be made known in equally detailed manner. Point number three, that the Hindu population of Kashmir was forced to convert to Islam by brutal methods should be made known widely. Point number four, that the Sufis were no way behind other fanatics in their proselytizing zeal to which they gave maximum effect under state patronage should also be brought out clearly. Point number five, and this is the last point in Sita Ramji's article, that the Rishi tradition of yogic spirituality, which went underground and which survived for a long time and had nothing to do with Sufism, should be made very clear. So these are five, solution points that Sita Ram Goel ji has given in this extraordinarily brilliant and eye-opening piece. And he concludes his article by saying this: the Islamic fundamentalism sweeping the world today is not a display of self-confidence. Rather, it is an uneasy reaction to the emergence of a world culture based upon humanism, rationalism, and universalism. Let the Hindus of Kashmir become once more conscious of their own cultural heritage so that they become increasingly aware of the crimes committed on their land and their people. No other section of Hindu society is better qualified to give a lead in this context. So this is how Sita Ram Goel's article ends, and it is worth revisiting. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that every Hindu should memorize it and take lessons from it. So, on that rather spontaneous note, I will conclude today's episode. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into the Dharma Dispatch YouTube channel. If you like the work that we do in service of Sanatana Dharma by bringing several valuable stories and anecdotes and informed commentary, please like our videos so that they get a wider reach, and do subscribe to our channel. Tell your family and friends to subscribe. And last but not the least, please do consider making a contribution of your choice to support our sacred work in service of Dharma. And we also have opened our membership recently. If you wish to become a member, you can click the join button on the homepage of the Dharma Dispatch channel for access to some really exclusive content that you won't find elsewhere. Jai Shri Ram. Namaste. Vande Mataram.